I am sad to report that Cop City is here. But according to the mayor, he's super excited. He stated when they tried to stop Cop City, we built the Atlanta Training Center, which is a propaganda term implemented by the city of Atlanta when they started getting backlash against the plans for Cop City and the amount of money that was going to cost. They had to make it seem like it was a good thing. This is about public safety when it's really about further militarizing our police. For those of you who don't know, Cop City is an urban warfare police training facility being built in unincorporated DeKalb County, which is a majority black county. They were not given any say so in the matter because the city of Atlanta owns the land. The plans were announced by former Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in 2021 in response to the George Floyd uprisings, some of which took place here in Atlanta. When the plans were first announced, the activist community here in Atlanta immediately organized against it because they saw that this was going to be a direct attack against Black communities and a tremendous waste of city resources. In response to defund, they essentially want to fund, a police playground. So the activist community immediately came out and opposed it, and they have been fighting it for the past close to about 4 years now. You had an environmental defender known as Tortuguita who was brutally murdered during a raid which featured ICE, DHS, the FBI, Georgia State Patrol, and the Atlanta Police. They pretty much admitted that the cop that got shot was as a result of friendly fire, and this was done as a forest clearing operation. Essentially, they want to crush any and all resistance to the building of Cop City by brutally murdering an indigenous environmental defender. Activists continued to fight against this military base being built in an urban forest in Atlanta in the midst of catastrophic climate change. But the city ignored all of the efforts to bring some more democracy, bring some more transparency. They even suppressed the voices of nearly 116,000 people who signed a petition to demand that Cop City be put on the ballot. Along with that, people who opposed Cop City were called domestic terrorists, were thrown in jail under bullshit RICO charges, and have been experiencing ongoing harassment for the past several years. But the mayor, he's excited because, Cop City is here. He's looking at possibly getting reelected for building the Cop City on the white elite's behalf, specifically the Atlanta Police Foundation, because they control the facility, they own the land, and they, were given close to about $30 million to build this training facility, which would be used by Israel as they execute their genocide against the Palestinians, by the Georgia State Patrol as they, go on high-speed chases threatening Georgians across the entire state, and police departments from all across the country. But he's excited, because he built it. So now all the white supremacists, police officers can come and, bond with each other and, and learn more effective ways to kill Black people. Improve public safety. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is worse than critics could have ever imagined. When, and I was one of the longtime organizers who was fighting against Cop City, we knew about the mock city, which was harkening back to 1960s when the U.S. government built mock cities all throughout the country to attack civil rights protesters. We knew about that, and about the urban warfare, and about the firing range, which is going to spew massive amounts of lead into the environmentally endangered South River. We knew about how it's being built right next to a prison, which houses predominantly Black youth, and they're going to be hearing firing shots all throughout the night. And we knew about the bombing range. But there's a couple more things that we did not know about. So yes, Cop City is here, but it's going to also include, a horse kennel, because of course, The police are modern day slave catchers, so they have to be put on a horse to intimidate, anyone who threatens the ruling elite and their plans for us. Because Naomi Klein did a really good article called "End Times Fascism," and a lot of people have been talking about how we are now under a fascist regime under Trump. But here's the thing: how do you implement fascism? You implement fascism through police and through militaries. What you've been seeing all throughout the country, whether it's via the deportations, the attacks on pro Palestinian demonstrators, it's the police. It's ICE, DHS, local police who are attacking Black and Brown communities through all these racist practices and for speaking up against genocide. So, if you're going to implement fascism, you're going to need a very well trained police to implement this fascist agenda. And this is what Cop City is all about. So, of course, you got to have the horses to intimidate protesters, who might be upset that their Social Security is being cut, that their Medicaid is going to be cut, that Trump's going to implement tax cuts for the rich while implementing more taxes on the working class via tariffs. But those cops will be out there to make sure to bust those protesters upside their heads for speaking out against this. Not only that, but you're gonna have a dog kennel, because of course, dogs, how the indigenous people were genocide here in this country originally. Columbus, when he first came to Hispaniola, he had dogs to kill off all the Native Americans. And when they wanted to enslave Black people, they had dogs to catch us or to keep us in line. And they also had dogs during Birmingham when Black people actually spoke out against Jim Crow apartheid. So, they're going to have a dog kennel. And if you know anything about, dog bites and police, virtually all the dog bites in this country are used on Black people, about 95%. And it's a form of terrorism. They use police dogs to terrorize Black people. When you're stopped by the police, and they want to search your car and you refuse to search, they bring out a dog to terrorize you, to make you conform to the police search, oftentimes so they can steal your money through legal means known as asset forfeiture. So it's going to have a dog kennel. And then it's going to have the mock city where they can train on how to, conduct SWAT raids. They say, for active shooters. But we know that most SWAT raids are really for, pro-Palestinian protesters or for like the person here in Atlanta, Katherine Johnson, who was just merely, 92-year-old Black woman who was murdered here in Atlanta in 2006 by the Red Dog Unit. She was just minding her own business, sitting in her house, when the Red Dog Unit busted down her door. She fired a warning shot in the ceiling, and then they brutally murdered her and planted drugs on her to cover it up. So we know most SWAT raids are really about crushing of dissent, and they were originally used against the Black Panther Party. But not only that, you're also going to have the firing range. So, because the police got to practice, on how to kill Black people. So, you're going to have that. But essentially, we were told all throughout this campaign to build Cop City, this is about crime prevention. This is about public safety. We got to give firefighters, they only have like one burn tower. So the rest of the stuff is essentially for cops, how to, get more sensitivity training when they're brutalizing us, how to improve the mental health when they're brutalizing us, and how to lie when they're brutalizing us. So essentially, this is going to be a cop playground. So essentially, everything we were told that Cop City would be was a lie. Now, what does all this mean? We are living in some very dangerous times, and they're trying to build numerous cop cities all throughout the country. Renee Johnston has done some excellent research on this matter, on how they're trying to build cop cities, nearly close to about 60 plus, all throughout the country, and they're using the exact same narrative. That this is about crime, this is about, firefighter training. This is about police reform, de-escalation, all the like, when really it's about the implementation of the fascist agenda. And what's even scarier is that because we are living in end times, because the American empire is collapsing, and because the American empire is on decline, the elites are trying to maintain their power by any means possible. And they will do this through having these highly militarized police training facilities known as cop cities, so the police can be there to crush any and all forms of dissent, just like we witnessed with the crushing of the encampment movement, witnessed in 2000 with the crushing of the Black Lives Matter movement. From time and time again, the police have been there, from the women's rights movement, from the LGBTQ movement, the environmental movement, the police have been there to crush it. And because Trump is dead set on bringing his authoritarian regime to this country and having mass deportations and possibly deporting American citizens and disappearing Palestinian activists, all this will be done through this highly trained, militarized, fascist police to bring about his authoritarian police state. So don't fall for the lies. Don't fall for the black faces telling us that this is about, reducing crime or public safety. Because essentially, a dog kennel, what does that have to do with public safety? Dogs biting black folks has nothing to do with public safety. Police people being on horses has nothing to do with public safety. Mock cities to terrorize protesters, nothing to do with public safety. But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with end times fascism. And for these end times, the ruling elites have decided that they are going to build cop cities so they can have a well-trained, militarized police to crush any and all dissent and maintain their power in the midst of the collapse of the empire. So we must continue to resist Cop City. We must continue to stop Cop City. We must continue to defund the police. And we must continue to organize to protect Black communities and Black life. Peace.